Billionaires often exploit the legal system not to seek justice, but to eliminate competition. By leveraging endless resources, they file frivolous lawsuits designed to bankrupt smaller rivals. These cases drag on for years, draining the opponent's finances while the billionaire's empire remains untouched. The goal isn't victory in court, it's forcing surrender through attrition. This tactic is common in tech, where patents and intellectual property become weapons. So-called killer lawsuits are designed to bury competitors under legal fees. Even if the case is weak, the sheer cost of defense can cripple a startup. Billionaires hire top-tier law firms that charge millions, knowing their target can't match that firepower. Many small companies settle or shut down before trial, handing over assets or technology to avoid ruin. It's legalized corporate warfare. Jeff Bezos' Amazon has a history of aggressive litigation. One notorious case involved a small startup with a promising logistics algorithm. Amazon sued, alleging patent infringement, then prolonged the case until the startup ran out of money. The founder settled, and Amazon absorbed the technology. Critics call this innovation by acquisition, using courts to steal rather than compete. In high-stakes legal battles, some billionaires go further, bribing witnesses or manipulating evidence. A rival's key employee might suddenly remember wrongdoing after a mysterious payment. Fake documents can appear, muddying the case. With enough money, truth becomes flexible. While illegal, such tactics are hard to prove, especially when the opposing side can't afford a thorough investigation. A common strategy is delaying trials indefinitely. Billionaires file motions, appeals, and procedural challenges, turning a 6-month case into a decade-long nightmare. Meanwhile, the competitor bleeds cash on legal fees, loses investors, and collapses. Judges often allow these delays, as the system favors those who can afford to wait. Justice delayed is justice denied, especially for the little guy. Billionaires don't just rely on lawyers. They also invest in relationships with judges. Through political donations, elite networking, and even indirect favors, they ensure a sympathetic ear in court. Some judges, aware of the power dynamics, may rule favorably to avoid backlash. In extreme cases, outright bribery occurs, though it's rarely exposed. The result? A justice system that tilts toward those with the deepest pockets. To avoid scrutiny, billionaires often file lawsuits through shell companies. These anonymous entities mask the true aggressor, making it harder for opponents to fight back. A startup might think it's battling a random patent troll, only to later discover a tech giant behind the attack. Shell companies also help launder bribes and obscure financial trails in corrupt litigation. When insiders try to expose legal manipulation, billionaires strike back ruthlessly. Whistleblowers face defamation suits, frozen assets, and career destruction. Even if their claims are true, the legal onslaught forces them into silence. Many sign NDAs in exchange for survival, burying evidence forever. The message is clear: challenge the elite, and you'll be crushed. Billionaires don't just exploit courts, they shape laws. Lobbyists push for legal reforms that favor aggressive litigation, like broader patent rules or mandatory arbitration clauses. Some even fund judicial campaigns to install friendly judges. When the system is rigged from the start, justice becomes a commodity auctioned to the highest bidder. Tech giants like Apple and Google weaponize IP laws to stifle innovation. They sue startups for vague patent violations, knowing most can't afford to fight. Even if the startup's tech is original, the threat of bankruptcy forces a fire sale. The billionaire then absorbs the innovation, killing competition while pretending to protect intellectual property. Before a case even reaches court, billionaires often smear opponents in the press. Leaked documents, planted stories, and PR campaigns paint rivals as criminals or frauds. Public sympathy shifts, juries are influenced, and regulators back off. By the time the truth emerges, the target is already ruined. Many corporations bury arbitration clauses in contracts, preventing employees or small partners from suing in open court. Instead, disputes go to private arbitrators, often ex-judges paid by the billionaire's circle. Predictably, outcomes favor the powerful. It's a rigged game disguised as alternative dispute resolution. When sued, billionaires don't just defend, they retaliate. A small business alleging fraud might suddenly face a countersuit for defamation or trade secret theft. The goal? Intimidation. Even if the original claim is valid, the risk of a costly two-front legal war forces most to retreat. Antitrust and anti-SLAPP laws exist to protect against abusive litigation, but billionaires twist them. They sue under obscure statutes or foreign jurisdictions where laws are weaker. Some even use copyright claims to censor critics, exploiting DMCA takedowns to erase opposition without a trial. Behind every strategic lawsuit are real people, entrepreneurs who lose life savings, employees left jobless, families destroyed. One founder described selling his home to pay legal fees, only to lose anyway. The billionaire's victory isn't just financial. It's psychological, sending a chilling effect across entire industries. When lawsuits go wrong, billionaires shield assets in offshore accounts. Even if fined, their wealth stays untouched in the Caymans or Switzerland. Opponents win hollow victories, collecting pennies while the elite laugh from a yacht. The law, for them, is just another game to outsmart. Hedge funds now bankroll lawsuits for billionaires, turning courts into profit centers. They fund cases against competitors in exchange for a cut of the winnings. It's not about justice, it's about ROI. Small businesses, meanwhile, can't access such luxuries, making the system even more lopsided. In some cases, billionaires persuade officials to launch investigations or regulatory probes against rivals. Tax audits, safety inspections, or sudden license revivals follow. The state becomes a weapon, and the target can't fight back, because you can't sue the government like you can sue a corporation. Every few years, outrage over legal abuse sparks talk of reform, but laws stay the same. Lobbyists water down bills, and media attention fades. Meanwhile, billionaires keep innovating new ways to exploit the system. Until money is removed from justice, the cycle will never end. A few startups now fight fire with fire, crowdfunding legal defenses or leaking evidence to the press. Some lawmakers push for stricter anti-SLAPP laws or litigation transparency. But real change requires dismantling the billionaire's greatest weapon, inequality itself. Until then, courts remain a battlefield where might makes right. Many top corporate lawyers later become judges, creating inherent biases in the system. Former Amazon legal counsel now preside over tech cases, while ex-Goldman Sachs attorneys rule on financial disputes. This revolving door ensures favorable interpretations of laws for elite interests. Small businesses rarely get this preferential treatment. Their cases are decided by judges with no connections to their industries. When class actions threaten billionaires, they employ divide and conquer tactics. They identify the weakest plaintiffs and settle individually to break group cohesion. Some even plant fake class members to sabotage cases from within. The result? Instead of meaningful reform, victims get pennies while lawyers take millions in fees. Many so-called patent trolls are actually funded by tech giants through hidden channels. These shell companies file thousands of patent lawsuits, creating a minefield for innovators. When a startup shows promise, the trolls attack, and if the startup survives, the parent company generously offers to acquire them. It's a protection racket disguised as intellectual property law. Billionaires weaponize the discovery process by demanding millions of irrelevant documents. One CEO described receiving requests for every email sent by his 50-person company over 5 years. The cost of compliance can exceed $1 million, often more than the case itself. This isn't about finding evidence. It's about financial asphyxiation. Corporate lawyers preach efficient breach theory, that breaking contracts is fine if you can pay damages. But billionaires take this further. They deliberately breach agreements knowing most small businesses can't afford to sue. The damages owed become just another line item, cheaper than honoring deals. Contract law thus protects those who can afford to break it. Some billionaires use bankruptcy courts to escape legal obligations. They shift assets to subsidiaries, declare bankruptcy, then emerge debt-free while creditors get nothing. Purdue Pharma's Sacklers perfected this, shielding billions while opioid victims receive crumbs. The system rewards those who game it most ruthlessly. For high-stakes disputes, billionaires increasingly opt for private judging. These paid arbitrators, often former judges, handle cases in complete secrecy. Outcomes are unpredictable, But one trend is clear. Repeat players, corporations, win far more than one-time litigants. Justice becomes a members-only club. Even personal relationships become legal battlegrounds. Billionaires drag out divorce proceedings for years, hiding assets in complex trusts. Some use child custody as leverage, threatening ex-spouses with endless litigation unless they accept unfavorable settlements. The children often suffer most in these financial wars. Beyond individual cases, billionaire lawsuits create industry-wide fear. When Musk sues a small EV startup, others think twice about competing. When Zuckerberg acquires or crushes every social media rival, innovation stagnates. The message is clear: challenge us, and we'll bankrupt you in court. While billionaires spend millions on legal teams, most Americans qualify for no legal aid. Pro bono services handle less than 1% of civil cases. This justice gap ensures the system serves the rich. If you can't pay $500 per hour for a lawyer, you effectively have no rights against corporate power. Elite litigants expertly forum shop, filing cases in districts with favorable precedents or judges. Patent cases go to East Texas, business disputes to Delaware. Some even sue in multiple jurisdictions simultaneously, forcing opponents to fight on several fronts. The home field advantage is very real in legal warfare. While 32 states have anti-SLAPP laws to prevent frivolous lawsuits, billionaires circumvent them. They file in federal court or states with weak protections. Some structure claims as business disputes rather than free speech cases. The laws look good on paper but fail in practice against sophisticated legal teams. In numerous cases, critical evidence against billionaires mysteriously vanishes. Emails are accidentally deleted, servers wiped, documents shredded. Judges may issue mild sanctions, but the damage is done. Without evidence, cases collapse. The richer the defendant, the more evidence seems to disappear. Even after losing at trial, billionaires exploit the appeals process. They appeal every minor issue, sometimes taking cases to multiple appellate levels. Each appeal adds years and millions in costs. Most opponents can't sustain the fight, settling for fractions of what they're owed. The process is the punishment. Some lawsuits are really intelligence-gathering operations. By forcing disclosure of trade secrets during discovery, billionaires gain competitors' confidential information. Even if the case fails, the data harvested can be invaluable. It's corporate espionage with a judge's approval. In countries with loser pays rules, billionaires exploit this to intimidate. They threaten opponents with crushing cost judgments even in weak cases. The mere risk of owing millions deters valid claims. What sounds fair in theory becomes another weapon for the wealthy. Studies show wealth, not merit, predicts case outcomes. One analysis found individuals win just 20% of contract disputes against corporations. Billionaires don't prevail because they're right. They win because they can outspend opponents 100 to 1. The law is theoretically blind, but practically biased. Beyond financial costs, prolonged lawsuits break people psychologically. Entrepreneurs describe anxiety, depression, and family breakdowns from years of legal assault. Billionaires know this. They're not just fighting cases, they're waging psychological warfare to demoralize opponents into surrender. In cross-border disputes, billionaires exploit conflicting jurisdictions. They sue in countries with favorable laws, ignore unfavorable rulings, and pit legal systems against each other. The result is a global race to the bottom, where the richest players choose which laws, if any, apply to them. Emerging AI tools will escalate legal arms races. Billionaires will deploy machine learning to generate thousands of legal arguments instantly, overwhelming opponents. Predictive algorithms will identify which judges to target and when to settle. The next frontier of lawfare won't be fought by lawyers, but by their AI proxies. Billionaires file multiple lawsuits on the same issue across different courts, forcing opponents to defend identical claims repeatedly. This tactic isn't about winning, it's about exhaustion. One environmental activist faced 17 simultaneous defamation suits from a mining tycoon across 3 countries. Even when all cases were dismissed, the $2.3 million legal fees bankrupted her organization. Wealthy plaintiffs increasingly demand blanket gag orders and settlements. A tech whistleblower revealed how his $3 million severance came with 63 pages of prohibited discussion topics, including mentioning the existence of the gag order itself. These judicial muzzle orders now suppress everything from product defects to workplace harassment claims. Russian oligarchs famously sued journalists in London, where libel laws favor plaintiffs, even over articles published elsewhere. One Dubai sheikh filed 72 libel cases in UK courts regarding a German magazine's reporting. The strategy works. Media outlets now routinely self-censor rather than risk million-pound judgments. Billionaires embed perpetual litigation clauses in their wills and trusts. The Walton family, Walmart heirs, structured their estate to automatically sue any family member challenging the inheritance terms. These dead-hand provisions ensure legal warfare continues indefinitely, with trust funds bankrolling lawyers long after the billionaire's death. In a perverse twist, some corporations now pay law firms bonuses for losing cases slowly. A leaked contract showed a pharmaceutical company paying its attorneys $15,000 per month extra to drag out opioid litigation. The longer cases took, the more the company could keep selling dangerous drugs, and the lawyers profited from failure. Modern NDAs go beyond confidentiality. They weaponize criminal law. Tesla's confidentiality agreements require employees to pay $500,000 if they even discuss workplace conditions with therapists. Some Amazon contracts mandate returning all severance if an employee ever speaks to any regulator about anything. Courts increasingly enforce these draconian terms. Billionaires sue in remote jurisdictions to maximize inconvenience. A Congolese mining activist was sued in Singapore over comments made in Kinshasa. The plaintiff knew the defendant couldn't afford flights, hotels, or Singaporean lawyers. Default judgments in such cases are common and enforceable worldwide. Wealthy defendants now file declaratory judgment actions the moment they anticipate legal trouble. When a sexual harassment scandal threatened a casino mogul, his lawyers sued the potential accusers first for extortion. This flipped the narrative. The victims suddenly found themselves defendants in a high-profile case. High-powered attorneys use psychological tactics to redirect blame. In a recent wildfire case, PG&E's lawyers turned jurors against greedy insurance companies rather than the utility's faulty equipment. The strategy saved billions in damages, while burned homeowners got pennies. Resurrecting settled lawsuits Even after settlements, billionaires find ways to revive dead cases. Disney famously reopened a 1997 contract dispute in 2018 using an obscure fraud in the execution clause. The target had already complied with all terms, but suddenly owed $200 million more. Legal experts call this lawfare necromancy. Billionaire legal teams deliberately flood courts with hundreds of pages of redundant motions, exhibits, and objections, sometimes exceeding 10,000 pages for simple disputes. One small app developer received 37 boxes of evidence, mostly printed Wikipedia pages, in a trademark case. The goal isn't to prove anything, but to make opposition physically impossible. One judge noted 93% of these documents never get read by anyone. Wealthy litigants strategically lose minor cases to establish dangerous precedents. A social media giant intentionally lost a small privacy suit in a rural county, creating case law that later helped dismiss billion-dollar class actions. Legal watchdogs have identified 127 such sacrificial cases in the past decade alone, a small price to pay for favorable judicial interpretations. Increasingly, billionaires push critical decisions to courts' emergency or administrative dockets where rulings happen without public scrutiny. Over 72% of these shadow docket cases involve corporate interests, often decided in hours with no written opinions. One energy company got a nationwide injunction against environmental regulations at 2:17 a.m. on a Saturday, with no explanation ever provided. High-profile figures now use predetermined lawsuit outcomes to officially clear their names. A crypto billionaire paid plaintiffs to file, then immediately settle fraud claims with court-approved statements declaring his innocence. These staged proceedings then get cited in PR as judicial vindication, turning courts into reputation washing machines. The legal system has become a rigged game where the rules only bind those who can't afford the cheat codes. What remains isn't justice, but just us. a private playground where billionaires rewrite reality through legal alchemy. Until we address the root cancer of wealth inequality in law enforcement, courtrooms will remain expensive theaters where outcomes get decided in boardrooms long before judges reach for their gavels. The bitter truth? You don't need to win in court when you can simply afford to never lose.